Uh, I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like this, in a matter of.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We got a video on the warm-up today, 67. Put your name on it. I'll walk you through it, and you can punch in some numbers. You should have a calculator there in the orange bucket. Please go get one if you don't have one. At the university, the student-to-teacher ratio is 12 to 1. If there are 3,000 students, how many teachers are there? It looks like that when it says student first, the first number goes with that. Those go together. So teacher is the 1, which means there's 12 to 1. 12 students for every one teacher, which means there's more students than there are teachers by, a factor of 12. So we're going to divide 3,000 by 12, and that will be your answer. The video is going to move a little faster than you're pushing buttons, so just pause it after every time, and you can type in the calculator, and then you can press play, and that way you can take your time with the video, but feel free to press pause. 10% of the class was spent taking roll and making announcements. If there were 45 minutes that remained, how long is the class period? We have to look for clues. This is very mathy today. State test. This is all good, like state test stuff too. But if 10% was used, that means how much percent is left out of 100%? And that is 90%, right? So that means that this 45 minutes represents 90%. And it asks us how long the class was. So we need to divide 45 minutes by 90%. Now the question for you would be, do you know how to write 90% as a decimal? Because you can't just do 45 divided by 90. You have to do 45 divided by the decimal of 90%, which is 0.90. And when you do that, you will have the answer for how long that class is. Okay, next. Nine dimes and 9 nickels are equal to 2 nickels and how many quarters? I think you can do that without me, so I'm just going to skip that one. I'd like you to pause and figure that one out yourself. That's a very, very good problem for you to work on yourself. So go ahead and pause, solve that one. As a reminder, if you need it, dimes are 10 cents, nickels are 5 cents, and quarters are 25 cents. I don't think you needed that, but if you did, there you go. I'm going to go to number 4. Find the mean, median, mode, and range of these diving scores. 9.6, 9.5, 9.5, 9.7, 9.8. What's the first thing we should do with any data set question? And that is put them in order. Hopefully you know to say that. Put them in order. 9.5, 9.5. Looks like there's 2 of those. 9.6, 9.7, and 9.8. If they're in order, the one that's directly in the middle, which is called the median, is 9.6. So we know that the median is 9.6. The mode is the most common, and the most common is 9.5 because it appears twice. The range is the biggest one, 9.8. Take away the smallest one, 9.5. So you do 9.8 minus 9.5. And you'll figure out what the range is. The mean, which I'm not going to do for you, but the mean you have to do 9.5 plus 9.5 plus 9.6 plus 9.7 plus 9.8, and then you divide by how many there are, and that is 5. So I will write it out, but you have to type it in. So 9.5 plus 9.5 plus 9.6 plus 9.7 plus 9.8 divided by 5, whatever that is. And I think the answer is similar to the median, but yeah. Okay, moving on. We got number 5. The airline advertised lower fares. The new fare for flying to Austin is $320, and that's 20% lower than its original fare. What was the original fare? So let's keep this in mind. $320 does not represent 100%. We're trying to find what 100% was. This 320 has been knocked down 20%. So what percent does the 320 represent if it's been knocked down 20%? And the answer is 80%. So this 320 is actually 80%. So how do we figure out the original cost? Well, we're going to do 320 divided by the decimal of 80%. 320 divided by 0.80. And whatever that is going to be the original cost of the ticket, and make sure it has a dollar sign on it. Okay, press pause if you need. Moving on to these similar triangles. It wants us to find x and find y. I think the most common thing that happens in 8th grade with these two triangles, you start to see the relationship. Because I said they're similar, now you look at the numbers, and a lot of kids notice the relationship between 7 and 14. And you can say, some kids say 7 is half of 14, or some kids say 14 is double of 7, 007. The point is that this triangle is 2 times larger than this because of the 7 and 14 relationship. And if that's the case, then we can figure out what x is because it corresponds with this side here. And so if this is half of this, then we're just doing 8 divided by 2, and you can figure out what x is. Okay, and just write x equals this number. And then same thing here, y is 2 times the size of its corresponding side. So if this is 5, you're doing 5 times 2 to get this, and you can write down y equals that. And go ahead and press pause if you want to work on that. Moving on to the next one, number 7. Number 7 is a y equals mx plus b question. And reminder that m is the slope, and that b is the y-intercept. And by y-intercept, I mean where does it cross the y-axis? And it tells us 2 clues. It actually tells you the slope. Okay, but then it says it passes through the origin. So that would assume that you know what the origin is referring to. And for those who do not know, the origin refers to the center point in the middle of a graph at the point 0, 0. So where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses it at 0. So how do I write my y equals mx plus b if it has a slope of 2/3 and crosses at 0? And that would mean that your b is 0. And if it's 0, you don't have to really write anything. So this answer is y equals 2/3 x. You don't have to write plus 0. You can just leave it off. Number 8 is a graphing one, and it tells you that Gwen drew a line with a slope of -3, and it passes through 0, -8. So on a graph, 0, -8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see. And it goes down -3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So on a graph, you can see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 0, -8. And then it says it goes down 3. So 1, 2, 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3 over 1. So this line would look like this. And what it's asking you is to write that equation. And you guys are really, really good at graphing equations now because we just did that tournament. But this is like doing it backwards. If I give you the line, can you write the equation? And you need the slope in the slope spot, right? The m, and you need the b. This is the b. -8 is the b. And the slope is in the problem. It tells you what the slope is right there, -3. So you will write down y equals -3x minus 8. Number 9, it says graph the line y equals negative 2x, and is the point 0 or negative 4, 2 on it. So we're not going to graph it, but we are going to plug these in. So this is x, and this is y, and we're going to plug those in for y and x here. So y is 2, and x is negative 4, and negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. So this actually says true or false, 2 equals 8. And you would say false, of course. 2 does not equal 8. And what does false mean for us on this problem? The problem's asking us, is this point on this line? And we've got false. So we're going to say, no, point is not on the line. And the next one, number 10, true or false? All parallelograms have 2 pairs of congruent angles. We're not really focusing on that right now, but a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel sides, and sometimes they're going to create 2 pairs of angles, congruent angles, because of the 2 sets of parallel lines. So we're going to say true for this. Angles, 2 sets of congruent angles. Congruent means that the angles are the same. So 2 sets, 2 pairs that are the same. Find the perimeter of the figure to the right. Oh, this is a good one. It doesn't want the area, it just wants the perimeter. All right, a couple things we have. We have 50, and that's it. So thank you for that. We have some clues, though. This is a circle. We know how to find circumference. The circumference of a circle is diameter times pi. We know that. We know that we know the dotted line is the diameter. This is diameter. We don't know what it is yet, but we do know we have radius. So we have r equals 7. That's a clue. Okay. So if r is 7 and the diameter is double what r is, then the diameter is, because diameter is always 2 times r. So if r is 7, then 2 times 7 is 14. So now we know the diameter is 14. So we can erase this and put 14. And now we have, the 14 doesn't help us with the area, like the perimeter, because we don't know what the perimeter, this doesn't help us here, but it does help us get this, and it will help us get this. So the 14 is necessary. So if you want to go find the circumference of a circle, you have to do diameter times pi. The diameter is 14. So you will take 14 times pi. 14 times 3.14. But it's not the full circle, right? We don't have the full circle. We only have half the circle. So I want to cut that in half. So if you're doing the math on the calculator, 14 times 3.14 divided by 2. And that is the length of this piece here. So I'm going to draw an arrow because I'm not doing it for you. It's going to be a number with a decimal. Now, that takes care of that, but we need one more side. We need this one. And how do I find this? Well, we have to do reverse Pythagorean theorem. So we need the equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And actually in today's lesson, we'll be doing some Pythagorean theorem. So it's kind of coincidental. We have the 14 squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared is always the longest side of a right triangle, which in this case 50 is. So we're going to put 50 in here. 50 squared. And these sides can be A or B. 14 can be B, or this can be A. These can be interchangeable, A and B. This one can be A or B, doesn't matter. But this one has to be C every time. And the equation is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you want to do 14 squared, which is 14 times 14, and that is 196. And then you take 50 squared. 50 times 50 is 5 times 5 is 25 with 2 zeros, so 2,500. And then you're going to subtract 196 from 2,500. And 2,500 minus 196 is 2,304, I believe. Yep. And now the last step, because that equals b squared, we don't want b squared, we want b. So how do you get rid of a square? You have to square root, but whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So here's what I want you to put in your calculator. Find the square root of 2,304. Now the next question someone might ask is, where's the square root button? So on your calculator, you have to press second first. So go ahead and press second. Then come down here and you'll see a square root symbol right here. That's a square root symbol, which means you need to hit this button right here. So the button where the square root symbol I'm touching, it's the x squared button. You press that. But now in your calculator, it shows like a square root sign. And then you type in 2,304, close the parenthesis. And you can press enter on that and you get 48. 48 becomes what this number is. So, it's a long problem. We have 50 plus 48 plus the outside of this, which you calculated by doing this right here. So again, 50 plus 48, that's 98, but that's not the answer because I still need this right here. What is that? And I need to take that and add it to the 98 over here. And then that's the answer. All right? If that's confusing, watch this problem one more time. Just back the video up a minute or two. All right, number 12. The bank offered a 0.6% increase. Find 0.6% of 1,300. The first thing I would ask you is, do you know how to write percents as decimals? And then, I would start you with 60%, focus on just 60%. So how do you write 60% as a decimal? And then you would say 0.60. And then I would say, well, how do you write 6% as a decimal? And then you would say 0.06. Okay, see what's happening? The decimal keeps moving. And then I would ask you, so if 60 is 0.60 and 6 is 0.06, then what is 0.6? And then one might conclude that there's another 0. So this is 0.006. Okay, that's the first step. You have to know that 0.6% is 0.006, which not a lot of people know, but that's okay. We're learning the percents. And then of in math means multiply. That's like a common thing to know. So you're going to do this in your calculator, 0.006 times 1,300. And it's going to be a small number, but make sure you write it in terms of money, okay? Money. So how would you write the answer with money? Which means it needs a 0 at the end, and etc. All right, pause that if you're doing that. Moving on. Write 5/9 as a decimal and a percent. Order these numbers from least to greatest, 0.55, 0.56, 5/9. It's like three different questions. First of all, anything divided by 9 is itself repeated. So 0.555555555 forever, okay? The decimal and percent, the percent is always the same thing as the decimal, just we just move it over twice. So the percent is going to be 55.55555. And I'll just use a line on top to show that it's continuous and it just keeps going. And I'll put a percent sign here. So the decimal is 0.55555. The percent is 55.55, continuous percent. And then it wants us to put these in order with the other numbers. It's testing to see if you think 0.555555 is bigger than 0.55. And it is, because there's more fives. So the order is 0.55, comma, 5/9, because that's 0.55555. It's like asking someone, hey, which one's more, $55 or $55.55? And you're like, obviously the one that has more money. That's really what it's asking, okay? And then this one's be like $56, right? So that's one way to look at it. Repeating, having an extra decimal on there would be, bigger, of course. So 0.551 is bigger than 0.55, and 0.553 is bigger than 0.551. I mean, it makes sense. All right, so that's your order. I answered that one for you. Go to 14. The vertices of the triangle are, so it wants us to kind of graph this. So we make a little graph, like something light, something light work, Negative 6, 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. Call that A since it's the first one. 6, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Call that B since it's the second one. 6, 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're going basically up here. Okay, call that C. And it's going to make a triangle, a right triangle. Okay, awesome. Straight lines. Perfect. It's beautiful. And it wants us to find the perimeter and area of this. Okay, well, if I want to find the area, I have to know base times height. See, the area of a triangle is your base times your height divided by 2. You have to cut it in half. So what is the base? Like, this is your base. From A to B is your base. So if I had to go 6 this way and 6 this way, my base is 12. Okay, so 12 times my height. What's my height? Well, I started at 1. See this? I didn't start at 0. I started at 1 and I ended at 6. So from 1 to 6, how many spaces is in between? And that's 5. So it's 12 times 5 divided by 2. That's the area. So please do 12 times 5 divided by 2. But you have to make sure the units are squared because it's area. And there aren't any units labeled. So you'll say UN, that will equal units. But you have to make sure you square it. So just put a square on your answer, okay, for area. Area equals whatever this is, units squared. Now your perimeter is back to Pythagorean theorem because you don't have the hypotenuse. You do not have the long side of a right triangle. You need it. You don't have it. So we'll call that C. You have A, 5 squared plus B squared, which is 12 squared equals C squared. So we're writing down Pythagorean theorem. What is 5 times 5? It's 25. What's 12 times 12? 144. We're going to add 25 and 144, and it's 169. And then the only way to get rid of a square is by square rooting. So you open your calculator back up to where I said. You press second. Then you press the square root button. And then you type in 169, and it tells you that the answer is 13. So you go C equals 13. Now, how does that help us? Well, now I have all the sides. I have to do all that just to get the sides because it wants the perimeter. So now I have the perimeter. I have 12, I have 13, and I have 5. So you're going to add for perimeter 12 plus 13 plus 5. Just remember that this is not units squared. This is just units, and you can abbreviate UN if you like. Okay, while you do that, you can pause. I'm going over here, factoring and expanding. So expanding is like what I did last year with my students. A lot of distribution, you just draw the arrows and you're multiplying. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. So that's the expanded version, right, of this problem. This problem's been factored. See, factoring and expansion, those are opposites. This is multiplying in. What's the opposite of multiplying in? Dividing out. So this is me dividing out. What can be divided out of A? What is in this? What's the same thing in every term? What's in this, and what's in this? That if I divide it out, it's in the same. And the answer is 5. So I can take a 5 out. But if I do that, what's left in? So what is 5x squared divided by 5 is just x squared. And 5x divided by 5 is just x. And 10 divided by 5 is 2. This is the answer to A, and this is the answer to B. All right. I'm sorry, there we go. Now you can see it. Pause on that so you can get a good look at the answers. All right, I'm turning it over. 16. All right, 16 is probability. It's based on some vowels. Just so we're clear, we're going to focus on A, E, I, O, and U. A, E, I, O, And you'd be like, sometimes why? And then I would ask you, how come why is sometimes why? And then you would know, and then we just end the conversation there. It's also sometimes X. Isn't that crazy? Anyways, we're going to focus on A, E, I, O, U. There's five letters. 5 out of 26 letters in the alphabet are vowels. So we'll focus on those. And then in this problem, it says Jenny has a deck of 52 alphabet cards. 26 are uppercase and 26 are lowercase, which means she has 2 sets of the alphabet, which means how many are vowels? 10 out of the 52 cards are vowels. That's the first answer. That's the answer to A. If on the first draw, Jenny selects a vowel and does not replace it, then how many cards remain? So this is more like asking you a general question like, hey, if there was 52 in there and she takes one away, how many are in there? So you would say 51 cards. and then ask vowels. Well, if she selected a vowel and didn't put it back in and there was 10 vowels prior, then you can say there's 9 vowels now. And then the bottom one is asking you the fraction of what you just did. So if she did her first draw, what's the probability that she selects a vowel on her second draw? Okay. If she put the vowel back in, it's going to be 10 over 52 again. If she takes the vowel and leaves it out, then you have this, 9 over 51, which that's what we'll put for this. We'll put 9 over 51. And as far as like probability goes, sometimes they want the percent. By the way, you can find any percent you want by taking your calculator and dividing the top number divided by the bottom number. So 9 divided by 51. And 9 divided by 51 is 0.176. Well, you can't write that down, so you're going to multiply that by 100. And what that does is it moves the decimal. See, it moved it twice to 17.64. You see that? So it was here, times by 100, moved it twice, because this means 17.64%. And actually, this 4 kind of rounds, the 4 rounds because the 7 pushes the 4. So we'll say 17.65%. And then the other one, we could say 10 divided by 52. See how it says 0.19? But you see how I can just move the decimal twice? What percent would it be? 19.23. So 19.23%. So there's the percentages for both those. Pause that if you need it, okay? All right, next one says Ryan runs a race at 400 meters per minute. Use the unit multiplier to convert 400 meters to minutes into miles per minute. And then it gives you the conversion. Thank you. Most of us do not know these conversions, and that's why it's nice to have them. I think even the state test provides you with a sheet of conversions. So as long as you know how to convert, you can use the conversion rate. So we have 400 meters m per minute. Per is the line, minutes on the bottom. This is what it looks like, 400 meters per minute. But we're trying to get to miles per minute. So how do I convert 400 meters to miles? I need this unit rate. But where do I put that? Well, I need meters to go by, so meters is going to go on the bottom, 1,600 meters. Because meters divided by meters is 1. Essentially, it's gone. If I can get rid of it like that, they cancel, which means that 1 mile goes on top. So this is 1 mile over 1,600 meters. That's the conversion rate, and this is the order I put it in. And then I do 400 divided by 1,600 in my calculator. 400 divided by 1,600. Go ahead and do that. And that's the answer. And you'll write that here in this space. Moving on to these ones. We have just some math to do really fast. We have -2 times itself, which is 4. Because negative times a negative is a positive. -2 times -2 is 4. And then we have -4 times 3, which is -12. And then we have this unique thing. This is a square root of 11, which is a really, really small decimal. But we don't have to even do that because a square and a square root, they're opposites. They cancel out. So this square cancels out the square root, leaving us 11 alone. So the problem we're doing on our calculator is actually 4 minus 12 plus 11. 4 minus 12 plus 11. If you do that, you'll have the answer for that. Okay, next one. The best way to understand this one is to write them out. Let's write them out in order. Like, see, it says m squared. That means m times n. See, it says b to the fourth. So I need 4 b's. B, 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 and then 3 r's, right? So r, r, r. Divided by, then you gotta do the bottom one. So 4 r's. I'm gonna put them near each other to make this easier. You got 4 b's. And you got 1 m. Okay, so here's the rule. The rule is you're allowed to cross off anything that's the same on top and bottom. So that's the fun part, is you get to cross stuff off. So that's gone, but this stays. That's gone, that's gone, that's gone, that's gone. So there's no b's anywhere. That's gone, that's gone, that's gone. And there's 1 r left. So at the end of this, what's your answer? M over r. That's the answer. All right, next. I know you don't like fractions. We have an aversion to them, so I will do this for you, okay? Something to remember, that anything to the negative 1 power is code for please flip this. That's what the negative 1 means. So 9/5 to the negative 1 power is actually just 5/9. So we have 5/12 minus 3/4 times 5/9 because I flip this to this. Now, I can multiply, but I see a relationship here. See, order of operations says that the multiplication problem goes first, so I'm not really touching this yet. But I can reduce my 3/9 to 1/3, and what that does is 1 times 5 is 5, and 4 times 3 is 12, and if you look carefully, 5/12 minus 5/12 is 0. So that answer is 0. Unique. All right, over here. I've shown you these before. I'm hoping that you get to this, you look at this, and you know exactly what to do. That's kind of my hope. They're asking you for X, Y, and Z, and they give you a clue. For starters, any angle opposite of each other, they're identical, okay? So Z is the same as 105. So Z is 105. Now, for X and Y, well, I taught you that there are a certain amount of degrees in a straight line. How many degrees are in a straight line? And that is 180 degrees. If I know that answer and you told me this is 105, then I can subtract to figure out what X is. And whatever X is also what Y is. So please do a subtraction problem. Next. A coin is flipped and a spinner is spun. What is the sample space of the experiment? Well, what are my options for a coin flip? Heads or tails? What are my options on the spinner? Well, it says A, B, or C. So I have 6 options total. See, this is A, B, C, A, B, C. What I just made is a probability tree. And from the probability tree, we can make a sample space HA, HB, HC, TA, TB, TC. And I can write those in a list for the folks at home. Okay. HA, HB, HC, TA, TB, TC, which means there are 6 total possibilities, and that helps set us up for answering this question. What is the probability of tails and B or C coming up? Well, tails is only right here, and there's only B and C. There's only 2. So 2 out of what? 2 out of 6 is the answer, or you can reduce that to 1/3, or you can write the percent for 1/3, which in your calculator is 1 divided by 3. Move the decimal over, it's 33%. 33.3 continuous percent. In other words, you have 1 in 3 chance to get the thing you're asking for. Okay, moving on to 22. 22 we can solve first by dividing 5 immediately on both sides. And the 5 is gone. And 40 divided by 5 is 8. So I have x minus 6 equals 8. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And x equals 14. So I've solved this one and shown my work. The next one, I'm going to add the 8x and the I think you can do this on your own. 8x and 3x, you can add those together. This 2, we have to add it to the other side. So 75 plus 2. So I'm looking at 11x equals 77, and then I want to divide by 11 on both sides to get that answer. Over here, you're going to do 2 steps, okay? Step 1, I'm going to write it up. Step 1, 0.7 minus 0.28. That's step 1. Whatever that is, divide that, whatever answer that is, okay? Step 2 is to divide that answer by 0.007, okay? So we're going to subtract 0.28, subtract 0.28, get an answer, and then divide it by 0.007. And that's the answer for 24. And that's it for this lesson. And if you follow along and your name is on it and you did this, go ahead and turn that into the correct bin.